Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nation's Call podcast with Jonna and Alyssa. Here we talk about stories from the missions field, how our theology has been changed by being with the broken and various cultures, along with other missions reflections. We hope we can uplift and inspire you with our stories and musings. Thank you for listening. Hey guys, it's me again. Once again, asking for your support, love, and affection. Please help. Don't forget, we are selling stickers and super cute postcards. I'm also about to make sea turtles, and I also have some ceramics that I need to take pictures of. But don't forget to support us by buying postcards and stickers, and Alyssa has some crochet crowns that are pretty cute. What else are we selling? Is that it?
For now, I think.
For now, that's it. Donate to us on Patreon or Tithely, PayPal. We have all the things. Most of them.
Welcome back to the Nation's Call podcast.
Dealing with a hot one today.
We're live in the studio of my bedroom because Jonna is still homeless.
I don't think I won't be homeless anytime soon.
So, get ready for some wacky audio situations over the next couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Anyways, today we are talking about exploitation in the missions arena.
And the sad thing is, we've all done it.
Yep. I have been major depressy today because I'm like, ah!
We've all done it.
So, exploitation number 1. Pretty much the biggest one that everyone who's gone on a short-term missions trip has done.
Photos.
Ugh. Yeah.
So what makes a photo exploitative?
Well, to me, the worst kind of exploitative photo are those photos of the dirty kids in the dirt road with the lice in their hair and they're clutching some kind of granola bar you just gave them. And you're like, look, we're doing God's work. We're saving the children.
And you don't know their name.
And you can't speak their language, but you totally saved them by giving them a potato. That is a real thing that we have done, is give people, like, a sack of potatoes.
What? When?
We did village food ministry that one time. It was like, we handed out, like, grocery bags. Remember?
Yeah, but I'm imagining, like, doing VBS ministry and being like, yeah,
we
we're playing soccer. Here's a potato.
No, we didn't do it like that. It wasn't like, you get a potato, and you get a potato, and Jesus loves you, so here, have a potato. No, it wasn't like that. It was like, we did, like, food ministry. And, well, I think that's important. Like, the photos of it can be not good.
Yeah.
Because those are real people.
Yeah. And I definitely looked through my photos, and there are a lot of pictures I've taken of kids. And, I mean, to me, I'm like, yeah, I know half their names. Don't know all of their names. Enough, but, like, I try not to take a lot of pictures of kids because privacy, and, you know, Romania might be different, but America, like, sometimes you really cannot take photos of kids and put them online.
Right.
You really don't want to for safety measures and stuff. So I try not to. I kind of want to get like a broad look, these kids are playing, but you can't really see their face, and it's not like they're really hiding their face, but it's kind of like we got to hang out and do VBS, but not like this is exactly who this is.
Those types of photos are also a little bit different than the ones that are like a missionary going overseas and hugging the kids, and you get the photos of them hugging the kids, and then you get to go back to your comfortable life, but they still have to live there, but you get to share the photos online of all the
right. Wasn't there
cute happy times? And I've done that. I have those photos.
I do too.
Which makes me feel conflicted inside because well, on the one hand, I think sometimes having those photos for ourselves so that we could, like, see faces and pray for people, that's fine. But it gets into an ethical dilemma when you post them online to be like, look at me, I'm the world's greatest minister of all time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. It reminds me of this one quote that ironically one of our favorite missionaries posted today or yesterday and said, "Don't go across the world on mission trips for photo ops with brown kids that you would villainize if they lived in the bad part of your own city," by Megan Matt. And I actually remember
I've never seen that quoted before. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually remember this being a hot topic of debate a couple years ago. And it was this guy who was posting it. And then at the same time, like, he felt really... And then he started feeling offended and attacked because...
Because he had those photos?
Yeah, and then anybody that commented was... I don't know. It was a really weird deal where I was confused because he posted it, but then at the same time he hated it. Because he did have those photos. And a lot of things that he said was really mean. And it was definitely exploitative.
Yeah. I would almost go so far as for me to say no more photos of children.
Yeah.
No more photos of children's faces. No more photos of dirty children.
Mm-hmm.
And especially not in the fundraising arena.
No. It feels worse, like, seeing it from an organization than seeing it from an individual. It feels worse to me. Because it does. So, one of our partners posted a photo last week, probably, that felt extremely exploitative. And it sucked. And it was just this dirty kid in the dirty street and concerning.
Yeah, and I think
the answer is either no photos or blur out and edit out identifying markers. You're going to edit those photos for social media anyway.
True. I think for me with kids, it's like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you could share stories of adults that want their story told, and it's,
right.
You know...
Ask for permission.
A consensual missions experience.
Right. You need to ask for permission, you need to share their story and their name. And if they don't want their name shared...
Yeah.
For privacy purposes, we're calling them...
Figure something out.
Something else. You know? But they need to have their story told. Because just seeing a picture of some people struggling in the dirt, like, that does not help.
Right. And let's get to the point of what sharing photos as a missions organization is at all. Sharing photos is to connect with the work on the field, right?
Yes.
And the best way to connect to the work on the field would be to hear the stories of real people who live there.
Yes. Agreed.
So then it follows that you would want to share the stories of people who can tell them and want them told. And that should be more meaningful than a photo of some
passing drug addicts.
Or, yeah, like that's a thing that happens a lot, is like photos of children and drug addicts, and like the worst thing that's happening in the city gets the most attention because traditionally it's easy to use for fundraising.
Well, it's just like slum tours. You know, a lot of people all across the globe go on what's called slum tours. Like, I didn't even know slum tours were a thing until I took an anthropology class, and people actually go on vacation and then take slum tours through Johannesburg and other such towns.
Like in South Africa?
Yes. All over. In South Africa and the Polynesian Islands, everywhere. And they go on a tour bus.
Do they pay money for this?
They pay money, go on a tour bus, and the tour bus drives through the worst of the part of town, the ghetto, and is like, see, look, all of these people are living worse than you.
This is what my mom is afraid will happen if we drive through Kansas City.
Yeah, people pay money for it.
People pay money for that.
Yeah, people pay money for it. So, like, it's a thing because I guess other people want to feel like they're living in privilege and they want to feel like, oh, look, I'm not doing as bad as they are.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if they took them away, like, I hate them, and my teacher also hated them, but we talked about how if they took them away from places like Johannesburg, that they would actually suffer because that's a huge tourist thing.
Oh, no, it's part of the economy.
Yeah, it's part of the economy. So
this is why development is important.
Development is super important.
Because that would, something else could bring money into the economy that's not a slum tour that people could come to and see or participate in. And that would be a way to develop a new revenue source so that slum tours didn't have to happen anymore, right?
Yes.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes sense to me. I'm Googling famous slum tours.
And we'll talk about relief versus development in another podcast episode. But it's all like tied together.
World's biggest slum tour hits #1 on TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor 2019 article. That's crazy.
Yeah. There's one in Mumbai. We talked a lot about the Johannesburg one.
These are terrifying. Well,
I need to find like the location. Hang on.
I would say that we would put a picture up on our Instagram, but that would be exploitative, would it not?
Yeah, I really don't want to. You can Google it if that's what you really want to do. These are really interesting photographs.
What's interesting about like slum photographs is that they're not actually pictures of people half the time.
No.
You don't see people in the photos.
Not like a lot of yeah, it's usually just like the tin roof construction and the crampedness and the trash everywhere.
Probably because, away from popular belief, those people are probably working.
Yeah? Probably. Okay. Well, that's hilarious because this was all about how you can change and a positive impact and stuff. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I was looking up locations because I'm curious. Cape Town, Johannesburg, parts of Rio, slums of Mumbai, New Delhi, even skid rows of LA, Detroit, Copenhagen, and Berlin.
Wow.
That's interesting. It's prominent in South Africa, India, Brazil, Kenya, Philippines, Russia, and the United States. Wow. That has such a different feel to know that the United States are on this. Not to be like
prideful or anything,
but I'm surprised to see United States on here. It originally focused on the slums and ghettos of London and Manhattan in the 19th century. Ha! Interesting. Okay.
So it started in the U.S.?
Yeah, it started in Manhattan and London.
It started in, like, developed countries.
Yeah, that's wild.
So, I don't know what to do with that information.
I don't either. Okay, what's your question?
So, yes, I have a question. Do you think that hosting, like, events, like worship events, and kind of like frou-frou gatherings in places like Skid Row is exploitative for the people who live there? Because they don't have anywhere else to go? Or is it, like, reaching people, I suppose?
Well, I mean, there's definitely two sides to that, because
I'm not sure, like, a one-time event can really do that much.
Well, I mean, okay, so there's two different sides to that, because there's the side that, like, buses might not go out there, or, like, transportation is difficult. So, in a way, it can be reaching those people, but I think it depends on who is invited.
I have a really specific example in mind.
Okay.
Shine Foyt led us worship event, Skid Row, during COVID. I have some really strong feelings about that being exploitative while we're on the topic of, like, Skid Row stuff.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people that are doing long-term work in Skid Row, and I felt like particularly for that, bringing a lot of people in for, like, an event during COVID was a really bad idea.
It's really gross.
Isn't that, like, a bad witness? Okay, I'm willing to die on this hill. That's a terrible witness.
Yeah. Well, because, one, you're using a popular name. People are following him everywhere. It's during a pandemic, and a lot of people are wanting to social distance, and be aware of their surroundings. So they're trying to get away from people, and then you kind of drag in this very popular person that has a following into the worst part of town where, truth be told, not everybody can afford health insurance. I would know. I am one of them that can't. Like,
and unhoused populations,
they can't have...
They don't have a house, they can't quarantine, so...
Right. Like
things
me.
happen worse.
Quarantine.
Yeah.
And I'm not even what I would consider, like, in the bad parts of town or whatever, but where I'm at in my current season, I don't have health insurance, and I cannot quarantine because I don't have a place to quarantine at. So...
Right.
Let alone somebody that legitimately does not have any else, like, any place to go, and is really down on their luck. Like, it's not loving your neighbor.
Yeah.
But I think it was, let's leave out the pandemic. I think if it was not a pandemic, and if it was not, like, yeah, I think if it wasn't a pandemic, it would be different.
It would be a different situation.
And I think for missions, what would be better is if you're going to do a concert thing, which is awesome, I like conferences and whatever, then you need to be in a place where public transportation is available, so that those that want to have public transportation, like that don't have transportation, can at least have public transportation, or have opportunities to go through the areas where people can't even afford a bus, like, and be able to pick people up and drop them off, and have it in a different location that isn't intruding on their homes.
See, what I'm wondering is, if you really wanted to do, sometimes people will do a concert in a city, and then they'll also, like, go by themselves with, like, a small team of people, and hold, like, a little outdoor worship event somewhere smaller, like downtown, and not publicize it as much, except for in the community that lives there. And I think I like that idea as an option.
I like that
for some of those harder hit areas.
I like that. Not in a pandemic. Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
I want the pandemic to be over, but it's not, so.
So, circling back to the social media conversation, there's a lot of discourse on how social media has changed missions, and can be exploitative or just problematic in general. And one of the things that I've seen that I have found creates kind of bad expectations for short-term mission trips is those tests, those, like, personality tests on what kind of short-term missionary are you. Usually the answers are very leading. They all lead to, you should go on a trip.
Well,
and
there
most of them are like...
Hang on, let's back up. There was only one quiz, and I took it, and it was all leading. Like, I haven't seen any more quizzes.
Oh, they pop up in my feed all the time. I don't take them, but they come up a lot.
Well, then how can you say they're all leading?
Okay, well, I took, like, 3, and then it was like, okay, I'm done.
I took one, it was very leading, and I think there should be an option of, like, alright, don't come on a missions trip.
Now I just want to make a quiz.
I
just got off track.
I also want to make a quiz. Well, I like personality tests. I like the whole, like, what kind of missionary are you? Because, let's face it, the application is kind of like that for
it's
ours.
True.
But ours is to, like, better place you.
With, like, teams in the field and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, okay, you like tech work. Let's create a tech team. Like, you know what I mean? I want to be able to be in a place where I can form different teams for different stuff.
Whoa. That would be an interesting idea, is, like, take a small group of short-term missionaries and split them all up individually to help with different aspects of what, like, the organization is doing overseas.
Yeah.
Because usually when you're on a short-term missions team, you're in a group, and you're in that group the entire time.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if splitting it up between allowing people to do stuff by themselves with other people that are long-term, and also doing group activities would lessen the burnout of having to be around other people and the same group of people.
Probably.
Too much.
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking, like, let's take Hope Church, for example. They do, like, a lot of tech stuff. Well, they kind of need somebody to help them with tech stuff. Or, like, office administrative stuff. And then, you know.
Right, and the whole group can't help with office administration.
No. Just...
But, like, one person who specifically feels like they want to could.
Or Raoul steals me because I type best. I don't mind. I like typing.
Yeah. Yes. So, we've talked about a lot of problems so far. What do you think is a solution to the social media photo epidemic? And what can we do better?
I think knowing people's names and stories and permission. I think those 3 things are really important. I think if it looks like, I don't know, if you had a child or a niece or a nephew, and if that was the photo, if that was the kid in the photo, and you wouldn't want to see it posted, don't post it.
Right. If you wouldn't want to be the child in the photo,
yeah,
don't post it.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, there definitely is times where, because I'm longer term, I like certain photos of certain children because it's like, I've seen this kid every year I've come, and that's crazy, you know? But that's as far as it goes. Like, I think it should be ambiguous photos, not like a close-up of one kid, but like, if you're going to take any pictures of kids, have it like off, you can see them playing games, but you can't really pick out a kid.
And I think it's important maybe to show that kids actually do have fun. Like, poor or not, dirty or not, kids are having fun in Romania.
Or like close up ambiguous photos of like them putting a puzzle together or them playing football or, you know, etc. But not like kids face dirty road.
Or I wonder if an option for those heartbreaking photos would be inanimate objects. Like a kid's shoe on the road.
Yes, which I love. Those are even more artistic, so I'm kind of more inclined for them because I think they're pretty.
And sometimes those can be a little bit of a bad faith version of the country itself. But I think for Romania specifically, their government's already so twisted that it's like, can you make it look any worse than it already is?
I think, okay, for example, I have a photo I took right after the Joplin tornado, and all you saw was, like, chaos and this Mickey doll, like, Mickey Mouse doll. And I think that speaks louder than just seeing kids lined up for water or food or a body. It's less traumatizing than a body, and I think it speaks louder than seeing actual faces. So I think the ambiguous photos would work really well. I think permission is a necessary need.
Photos like the one of the Mickey Mouse doll focus our attention on the humanity, like the crisis plus the humanity.
Mm-hmm. Without dehumanizing an individual.
Yeah.
Another thing that we have noticed is if the child is happy or smiling and playing, that doesn't feel as exploitative as if they're sad and nasty. So that's just something to be aware of, is the emotional state of people. I remember there was a photo of me whenever I went on a missions trip with my youth group, and they posted a photo of me bawling my eyes out because I was so touched by God, and I felt so betrayed and I was so upset by it because I was very much in a state where I didn't want people to see me crying or anything, so I was really upset. And they're like, oh, but it's so good, it shows that you were really touched by God. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm upset because I didn't want people to see me cry, and I was really embarrassed. And so I think putting those things into context and thinking like, oh, what if this person doesn't want to be seen crying or doesn't want to be seen in this emotional state, like putting that together with exploitativeness, it brings a different light versus like if they just posted pictures of me smiling and happy, I would have been fine. So keep that in mind when posting photos.
Transitioning a little bit, we're going to talk about emotional readiness for the missions field. So one of the easiest ways to not get into exploitative tendencies is to be emotionally ready for what you're going to see on the field. One of the things about trying to be emotionally ready is that you might need to actually see pictures of people in hard situations. But I think that comes in training, like in missions training, when it can be explained and you can be like, this is this family and here's their situation as a case study, and you might need them and you need to prepare yourself for the situation that they're in.
Well, that would be nice.
And to settle within yourself that you are there to serve them and you're not gonna freak out and act rashly, and so you can be prepared and listen to your team leaders on how to help them in the best way possible. And I think something like that would be helpful, like case studies with the photos used correctly,
right,
in order to prepare people for the harsh reality.
Not publicized, but personalized.
Yeah.
That would be nice, because there definitely is children that both of us know, and
their situation's hard.
Well, we've seen them for like years, and we didn't even really get to catch most of their names. I know one of them was Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because Vera told me afterwards.
I know one of them was named Laura. I have her name.
Right. So it's like we also, like, in the busyness of translating and just wanting to make sure these kids feel like welcomed and loved and, you know, playing games or whatever, and the overall chaos that is being in a different language, we don't always get the opportunity to grasp names unless we speak the language, which we're working on.
We speak it poorly.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So, but I think, once again, comes with good orientation. That's a great idea for orientation. I love that.
Yeah, I think that having case studies of real people that are there, and including like information about their lives, the circumstances that they're in, hardships they face, that kind of stuff, it brings the people that want to go on the mission trips into the community before they get there.
Right. It's also the same idea as, like, okay, you're taking your kids to this hotel, and the owner of the hotel doesn't have an arm. And so you tell the kids, he doesn't have an arm.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
And then your kids are like, we're going to freak out. We're going to freak out so hard. That's literally short-term missionaries.
Yeah, like, and you're just like, don't freak out. Don't ask him why he doesn't have an arm. Like, be chill with the fact that some kids might have lice. Like, you know, be chill with the fact that they're not clean cut and, you know.
Don't have haircuts. They're kind of dirty. If you hug them in a white shirt, it might turn brown. The dirt roads out there are insane.
Honestly. Don't freak out that the little boy is wearing a Puppies Are a Girl's Best Friend t-shirt. I've seen that. I tried really hard not to laugh until later. Like, you know what I mean?
If you're prepared for that, you can hold it in.
Yeah, if you're prepared, you gotta hold it in. Like, so it's better to be prepared. This goes right back to orientation and pack your list.
Also, I think it's important to be prepared for the amount of unchecked mental illness that there is in less developed countries. You will run into people who have not received the highest quality of care and are not at the same cognitive functioning level as the people on the trip that are going are. So, like, autism spectrum, Down syndrome, various types of disease-borne mental problems. Those types of people, you will see them and you will feel a lot of feelings. And sometimes praying for them is the right call with their family's permission. Sometimes praying for their family to have strength and perseverance is the right call. But that happens. Like,
and praying for them by yourself later is also a good call. Yeah. Just being prepared and knowing that, like, people are people, and if they're struggling, it's because they're struggling, not because of those dang drug addicts. Like, they're drug addicts because they're struggling with life.
Yeah.
They're still people. So, sorry. You showed me a missionary photo of some Pakistani drug addicts, and it bothers me because it's labeled Pakistani drug addicts, and they don't even, like, bother to vocalize the hurt.
Yeah.
Because they are individuals and people and valuable, and yeah. And so I'm kind of stuck on it.
That kind of started this whole conversation, is there was a missions book that I was reading. Is put together by smaller missionaries in-house. So I think that's part of it. Mm-hmm. The lack of editing and oversight and gatekeeping, if you will.
Well, let's just not label people.
Yeah.
I think if that photo was labeled some Pakistani individuals struggling, I would not hate it as much.
Or even not at all.
Or even not at all, if it was just there.
So what other ways do you think that we can be prepared for culture and emotions on the mission field? Like interpersonal conflicts. I mean, you, me, and Nicholas had interpersonal issues in the Balkans, and
so dumb.
That, you know, was just the three of us. How do we deal with teams that...
Well, don't stick them in a car for 2 weeks straight.
Oh, that's a good point.
You could just, you know, let them have their space. And I think splitting up the team to their advantages in what they can do would help. But don't stick them in a car for 2 weeks straight where they can't get away from each other.
That's true. Add in sleep deprivation and consistent jet lag.
And, you know...
This is just turning into us stating our own problems.
Well, also,
vaguely.
I think a consistent food, actual food.
A schedule. A real schedule as far
as,
as, like...
I mean, it's a road trip. How can you really expect it? But we needed a little bit of more rest. I think a little sleep would have done us all some good. But, like, how to not exploitate is to think, if somebody posted this picture of me, would I be happy? And if the answer is no,
which I feel like 9 times out of 10 it is,
then don't post it.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple.
Use ambiguous photos that you took, you know. How do you get prepared without a solid orientation to lean on?
I really don't think you can, unless you are talking and communicating with people on the field that you are going to, and they can answer your questions about living situations of people you're going to be talking to, what the culture is like, different types of emotions that come from not being able to pet dogs because they might bite you. Honestly, the situation with the dogs is very upsetting to people.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I'm not really a dog person.
But imagine if you were. Like, if you were a cat person and you had to see a bunch of cats just, like, moldering and dying in the streets.
Yeah. Like, it is hard.
That's also emotionally distressing.
It is emotionally distressing to see mangy old dogs look both ways before they cross the street because they know better. Have their tail fall off. Be blind in one eye. And then try to bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't have people to talk to about stuff you can't even ask questions for, because there have been times that we've gone on a mission trip and gotten into a situation, like gone to someone's house and just met somebody random and heard part of their life story. I didn't even have the forethought before we went to even ask the question, can you go into people's houses randomly in the Dominican Republic?
Well, we did.
I didn't even think to ask that question. So how could I be emotionally prepared for doing that?
I feel like Dominican Republic, I was least emotionally prepared. I also feel like their orientation wasn't amazing because I asked for one repeatedly and I didn't get much of one. But also, I know they said it, but I wasn't prepared to see as many prostitutes as I did.
I think I was a little naive and blind, but while we were in the hotel, I definitely noticed women dancing with guys and
young women dancing with old guys.
Young women dancing with old guys and being handed money and
even like going on the bus, there was this one area we drove through where we saw a lot of things happening, and I wasn't really emotionally prepared for that because I'm never emotionally prepared to see prostitutes. Like, ever. Because I know that
hearing the words...
I'll say it right now. I know that a good 90% of them have been sex trafficked and tricked into it. So I'm never prepared to see a sex trafficked victim.
Yeah. Or, like, people... I mean...
I'm too emotional. I'm, like, empathetic. I really
want to... People
don't
usually choose to exploit themselves.
Right.
So,
right.
Somebody else is exploiting them.
Yeah. So, like, I'm never really prepared for that. And
hearing the words prostitution is legal versus seeing, like, faces of people or, like, having it explained in greater detail what's happening.
Or even just
have different.
Well, I feel like they did say that we would see prostitution happening. But I still wasn't prepared to see.
What do you think would make you more prepared?
Staying in the culture longer. Honestly, I don't think anybody could say anything. I feel like I'd have to see it. That's not beneficial, but...
So, it is beneficial because what I hear you saying is that short-term mission trips to people who are victims of sex trafficking or abuse cannot happen. Short-term mission trips should not happen like that
at
to
least
those people.
At the very least, not to me. Not for me. Not for people like me. And I feel like I'm pretty, like, I'm ready to see the down and dirty, but...
Well, I'm thinking that maybe, like, a 2-month-long trip, or even shortest, maybe a 1-month-long trip.
Yeah. To
go help ministries that already exist.
Yeah, I think that would be
ideal.
More ideal. Because there was a story I read recently about how this woman was
the Helping Without Hurting book.
Once again, the Helping Without Hurting book mentions a story.
Link in bio.
Right, honestly. Mentions a story of a woman that was going through, like, a house, like a brothel house.
They were touring a facility for sex trafficking victims.
Yes. And she, like, came face to face with one of them and started bawling her eyes out. She couldn't handle it. And then, like, it freaked the woman out because she felt like she was on display.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, like, a young girl, too, which made it, like,
worse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's kind of like that can't happen with short-term missions. And maybe it could with people that have often dealt with those kind of scenarios in their own home places. But if people are unaware and haven't helped out in those situations, I don't think that should work in short-term missions. My opinion,
strategy.
My opinion is probably not. No.
I honestly don't think that that certain mission trips should be open to everyone. I think that for, like, sex trafficking victims, it should require some strategy,
and training, a lot of training.
People who have gone through, like, foster care training classes, or people who are willing to go on this trip, but also willing to take several, maybe months worth of courses on trauma and how to help trauma victims before the trip. It just requires more work, and I don't think that we should shy away from missions being work.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be a longer team, a longer mission trip.
And we're not personally doing any of that, but
I would like to eventually, but I would never offer them.
Right.
I won't say never.
I don't want to stomp on people's chances for healing to bring untrained people.
I would be hard pressed to find out in the future that I did a trip to these locations and for less than a month long.
Right.
I think a month is the shortest you could do, in my opinion.
Yeah, could be wrong. A month really does fly by, so.
Mm-hmm. And that would have to be with trained individuals. I think it needs to be with trained individuals. So.
Well, that's our take on emotional readiness, as far as, like, some extreme versions go.
And always ask for more orientation. Always ask for more training. Always ask, like, your team leader, like, what can you be doing? What more can you prepare for? You know, Google it, research it, like, look up the country, try to figure it out, like, a little bit. What's the norms, etc. Like, do they have a lot of dogs? Can you pet the dogs?
Right. Find out what questions you should be asking.
That's hard. How do you find out what questions you should be asking?
Travel blogs. Honestly, start with travel blogs for the specific country.
Even expat blogs.
Expat blogs. If you are planning on going on I would even say like short to medium term trip, pretend you're moving there.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. And then figure out some different things about the community life based off of what it's like to try and move there or live there. Like, can you look at housing market costs to see how that affects the people who are currently living there? Like,
right.
I don't know.
Usually you can find an expat blog. I've read expat blogs to like 15 different countries by now, and I'm only moving to Romania.
Do you have a favorite expat blog?
No, I just Pinterest it.
So you just get on Pinterest and like type in like
expat blog
/ Romania, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Or like, expats to wherever, I've been starting to read expats to USA just because I'm curious of the difference.
That is interesting.
It's very interesting.
I think if you're interested in doing missions trips a lot in your lifetime, maybe make learning about some of the countries you're interested in missioning to a long-term thing in your life, where you kind of pick it up almost like a hobby, where you just learn, what is life like for people who live there all the time.
Right. And I'm sure YouTube has people from that location. And if you have a VPN, that's even better. Just pretend your VPN is in the country you're learning about and start researching it.
I've been hard-pressed to find Romanian YouTubers.
Really? I've found them.
They don't speak in Romanian is usually my problem.
Oh.
It's
yeah.
like, if it's for language learning, it's not happening.
I found like 5 Romanian YouTubers that for Romanian
I am
language
looking
learning.
in the wrong place.
Okay, I don't even do YouTube, and I'm better at this than you.
How?
I don't know. But like, you can just YouTube, like, expats to this country. And you can Pinterest expats to this country. You can read it, you can watch it, you can find it. Set your VPN there. You can find it.
Yeah.
It's findable.
So, thanks for listening in to our little bit
hotter take,
disjointed, almost rant.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all of these things really tie in together, but it's hard to transition between them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like 3 podcasts in one, and it's a little difficult to navigate all of it.
Right.
Verbally, emotionally, if you're in the country, physically.
Right.
Sometimes things just come out, like emotions come to the surface that you're not prepared for. And looking up some maybe meditative exercises for how to ground yourself and bring yourself back down when those things arise would be good, also for emotional preparedness.
Yeah, and that's not heebie-jeebie. That's like Holy Spirit.
Yes. Yeah, maybe, well, not maybe. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit, help me
figure out a good coping mechanism of how to just be able to handle anything that I might see that I might be ill prepared for.
Or you could just whisper, help me. Help me.
You can also do that. He is a great helper. Don't forget, buy our stickers and postcards. I'm soon making turtles.
Yes.
Pray for us.
Putting out some merch.
Pray for us. Me for my living situation, but also we're moving soon, and we need assistants and partners. So,
yes.
Awesome. Oh, yes. And I have a blessing. Holy Spirit, thank you so much for leading us and being awesome. I ask that you show us different ways of how to better love your people and how to not exploitate, but honor your people. That we do right by you and we listen to the community, we love our neighbor, and you continue to shine through us. In Jesus' name, amen.
The Nation's Call is a 501c3 missions organization supported by wonderful people like you. If you would like to partner with us, you can do so by going to Patreon at patreon.com/thenationscall and by following us on Instagram and Facebook, where you can also ask us questions we might address here. Thanks for listening to the Nation's Call podcast.